Welcome to Burning Questions, conversations about our living world, where we explore the human side of the climate crisis, what calls us into this work, how we navigate the challenging emotions that arise as we work toward a more just and healthy world, and how everyone has a part to play. And I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Jennifer Uchendu. And she's most well known for being the founder of SustyVibes, a youth-led organization across Africa with sustainability themes. So, Jennifer, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It's a pleasure to be here. It's really amazing. Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about your work and other projects you may be involved in as well.
Sure, thank you. As you mentioned, I'm known for my work at SustyVibes. SustyVibes is an organization I started 10 years ago. So we turned 10 in 11 days, and we're excited about that. But it started from a blog where I wanted to start writing on sustainability issues from a young person's point of view, particularly living in Nigeria at the time and wanting to have, more young people involved in sustainability conversations. But that work has evolved. So beyond sustainability conversations and advocacy, our work, evolved into community projects, working side by side with communities and really driving that sense of youth leadership when it comes to climate action and environmental sustainability. Very recently, I would say I kind of pivoted as a result of a personal experience that I'll get to share a lot more of on this conversation to do more work on eco anxiety. So I have another initiative under Susty Vibes called the Eco Anxiety Africa Project, where we've really been pioneering research and work to understand the African dimension of eco anxiety and eco emotions for young people. And yeah, really, it's really been a journey of learning, a journey of also finding what resilience means for someone like me, a founder who has been passionate about these issues, but also encountering these strong eco emotions along the way. Thank you.
Well, let's talk more about that. What called you to the work initially? And like you said, you've had a pivot. So tell us about those personal moments.
Absolutely. I mean, starting Susty Vibes 10 years ago just came out of this um wild desire to do something about the state of our planet and about the environment. I think for me, it was in seeing that there were people all around me that did not realize that the environment was our life support system. You know, I was like, this should be basic. We should all be clamoring to protect the environment. The trees gave us fruits and our food. So why were people trying to cut them down? I just couldn't wrap my head at the time. And so a lot of my work at Susty Vibes in those early days was to get more young people to, educate people, to drive advocacy, to talk about how do we repair our connection and relationship to the environment. What changed?
Mhm.
Why did we become so disengaged, and just look the other way and have, people just do whatever they liked? And so that was my motive and mission at the time. But as you know, Leslie, this work is very heavy, it's very stressful, it's very complex, especially when you add the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity loss on top of, pollution, particularly plastic pollution, on top of the climate crisis. So these are very big existential issues. And 4 years into doing our work at Susty Vibes, we started to encounter very, very strong eco emotions, what we now know as described as eco anxiety. Personally, for me, it was huge. I had attended COP, my first climate conference, and what should have been a very proud moment just became extremely stressful because it was the first time for me being around world leaders who were to be prioritizing climate action, but I didn't see that happen at COP. And so that
Yeah.
betrayal, that stress, really weighed down on me, and I had to make a decision. Do I just completely give up on this course and this career because it didn't seem like a career that had some, gains. I didn't know what success seemed like at the time. And so that frustration led me to decide to either drop it altogether or to investigate my emotions. Why do I feel so strongly about this? Why are feelings like overwhelm, anger, starting to take over me in such, intense ways. And so I became an accidental researcher of eco anxiety, and it's now been 4 years. I've been working on eco anxiety, trying to understand and unravel the experience, particularly for my population in Africa, and I believe
Yes.
global south, global majority. And I think it was really important that we did that because there is an injustice undertone and layer to the experiences that we face. And so it's been a very deeply valuable experience for me to learn more about, climate and environmental emotions.
Yes. Can you say a little more about what you've discovered supports you personally? There's many ways to look for relief or support around that. What's helped you?
Great. That's such a great question. Finding people that are working in the same way, with the same passion, that have the same agenda, has supported me. It could be, I find them in different places. I find them in conferences. Find them at the store. I see a tote bag or, some inscription, and start a conversation, and they tell me why, they're doing their bits and the different things that they're doing. That has been deeply nourishing. I have found moments where I explore the land in which I live through gardening, cleaning up.
Mm.
That has really helped me just feel very connected to nature, feel very connected to the land and the environment, and just makes me feel like, this is all worth it, right? This piece of land stands a chance. It's nourishing me in different ways, and I'm able to also nourish it in the little way that I can. Yep.
Ah, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, as people are waking up to the severity of what we're facing, a lot of people are looking for ways to make a positive contribution, to be involved, and sometimes struggle with where that opening is. Anything you'd like to offer about how to participate?
Sure. I mean, I guess maybe it's what demystifying what participation looks like. For me, it's always been about our connection to nature. And that could mean anything, the different ways that people are walking, living, and behaving towards repairing that, connection. Some people, would choose to donate to organizations who are, actively doing the work. That's great. Some people become, advocates and activists, and, call out organizations who are working on pollution. That's important. Others, join spaces and communities where people talk about these issues and look at ways within their community to take action. I think that's important. Ultimately, for me, it's really about, are we working and living towards repairing our relationship with the environment? And that could come, and show up in different ways. One of my research, for example, when I was completing my master's, was looking at the role of parents in the ways that they train and teach their children about
Mm, yes.
conservation, about protecting the environment. And I think that is powerful because I constantly thought when I was at COP, I was like, how did these people who become negotiators against the climate or against the planet, how
Mm.
did they,
Yeah.
grow up? Why did they become so
Yeah.
apathetic, towards protecting the environment? And so it means that parents, teachers, everyone has a role to play because we have some form of power. Yep.
Yes, beautiful. Um, you've already spoken to this a little bit, but given that this work does have a lot of ups and downs, disappointments and successes, um, do you have a sort of a go-to practice or quote or source of inspiration or person that kind of brings you back to feeling grounded, present, ready to continue?
Sure. Hmm. I mean, I think at different points I've had multiple anchors. There were times where it was my team at SustyVibes, all of the young people who just come together, volunteer, to clean up the environment, and they're actively year on year talking about these issues. Sometimes in the rain, sometimes, without having the means, we would have to figure out how do we get, transportation to support them, but they come out, actively and passionately. So I draw a lot of hope and inspiration from, these young people in Nigeria. But very recently, I think my son, who's almost 2, has been that anchor that just makes me feel like this is what it I need to work to protect the environment and future that he would live in. He's going to ask me at some point, what did you do? And did you do enough? I want to be able to say I did my best, and it might not always be enough, but I'm showing up every day in the different ways to convince people to go back to that heart and mind connection to our environment. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Well, before we close, is there anything else on your heart, on your mind that you'd like to share?
Sure. Great question. I mean, I think that ultimately, with conversations like this, the climate crisis feels so overwhelming. And one of the easiest things that I think we need to do is to have more and more conversations, as simple as it is, and it doesn't need to sound technical. It doesn't need to be about carbon emissions. It's really about the choices that we make, the way we decide to design our lives, the things we say yes and no to. And I think those conversations ultimately change the way society thinks about, what the climate crisis is or is not, and what, is obtainable. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Really valuable, lovely conversation here. Yes, and for those of you listening, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about Jennifer and her work and ways to support it, you can use the links on your screen or go to the show notes. And please join us for this ongoing conversation and growing community because we're always better together. Thanks, everyone.